Hey, everybody. It's Ellen Juddy, your PLC lead for high school dance on the Godot Communities website. I am back for a second segment on student choreography and choreographers. In the first segment, I talked about the application process that I used to use and just some of the ins and outs of how I've done it for the past year and a half. And some suggestions. We talked about some suggestions on how you can start all of that. Like I said, I had an application process, and so I have put that in the document section of the website, and you use that how you want. Look at it, rearrange it, don't use it, whatever you would like for you to do that. This segment, I'm going to talk about student choreographers and navigating peer-to-peer working relationships. This can get a bit tricky depending on your students, especially this year with the fallout from the pandemic. I know you're most likely all experiencing some behavioral issues with your student body. If you aren't, you are lucky. It's almost like they have forgotten how to communicate with one another. So that's leading to arguments and miscommunications and hurt feelings and then nasty words. And then in some unfortunate cases, fights. We rarely have fights at my school, but this year it's not been great. One morning we had 2 fights before first period in the cafeteria. They ended up being related. But still, it feels just like bad for school morale, and it's like, this is not who we are. So I digress. Managing the peer-to-peer relationships can be hard anytime. But with this fallout from the pandemic, it could be even trickier for you depending on your students. So I can't sit here and tell you exactly what to do, obviously, because we all have such different students. So I thought the best way for me to just talk about navigating some of this stuff is just to tell you about a couple scenarios that I've dealt with. The first scenario is actually from a while ago, like we're talking maybe 2014, 2015. And back then I only had seniors choreograph. And there was an application process and an adjudication process. So this is a valid scenario. So the girl was a senior and she wanted to choreograph. She was in my intermediate 2 class, which is the class that's right below my advanced. But most of those girls were girls who were juniors and seniors and that I had in the class for their whole high school career. And maybe they didn't, especially back then, I have different criteria now, but their technique level wasn't quite up to that advanced. So she was in that class and she had been in since freshman year. So I knew her. She wanted to do a lyrical piece. I have so many thoughts about using the word lyrical, but that's a whole other webinar. We'll let that go. So, I could have turned her down, but she had some other hardships in high school, and I did not want dance to be just one more disappointment, especially on her senior year. The problem or the challenge was that she was the kid that didn't fit in. So there were probably 20 or 25 kids in that class, in my dance class, and she was as sweet as could be, but she just didn't mesh with the other girls. The other girls really didn't care for her. She was like a sort of a loner. She just really did not fit in with the other girls in the class. And I think that goes for all of her other classes in the school. I don't know that she had like a friend group, and she was just, different from the other kids. So I wanted to give her a chance. I didn't want to give her one more thing. So right away, we are walking into a scenario where the girls are rolling their eyes and being hostile during her rehearsals. And now I don't remember the ins and outs of her preparation, like if I helped her, how much I helped her, but I knew she would come into rehearsal. I remember her coming into rehearsal with a notebook, her little notes. So they were doing what she asked. It's not like they didn't dance at all, but they were not, putting all of their oomph behind it. And they, like I said, they were rolling their eyes and they were just being not nasty, but just not nice, shall we say. So yeah, they just didn't have a positive attitude. Her dance was fine. Like I said, I guess you could call it lyrical. It was to an instrumental piano piece with lots of passes and bourrées and arabesques. And, it was probably a bit immature for what we had been doing and what the dancers were used to doing. But I mean, this was her expressing herself. So that's what we do. So, the other girls in the class did voice their concerns to me about it. And I didn't dismiss their concerns, but I was just kept telling them to keep an open mind and just to give her a chance. And so one day she was absent, and I don't make a habit of, talking to the entire class about another student, but it was just a good opportunity to sit them down. And I was just like, you have to do this. There's no choice. This is how the dance world works. And while I know you might not be going to dance professionally, we are, doing the way we do things here, and you will do this dance. And, she deserved this opportunity to choreograph just as much as any of the other girls. So, I just was like, you have to be cordial, you have to be respectful, you have to do this dance. And so I was like, if you go out there on stage and make this, if you feel like you are uncomfortable, you're going to look uncomfortable and you're not going to pull it off. I was like, you've got to go out on stage and give it 150%. So luckily they were like, yeah, you're right. And so, fast forward to the show, the dance was fine. They did it well. And, the mom of one of the main complainers came up and she was like, oh, I loved that dance with the white dresses. And I'm like, see, all you got to do is just do it. So scenario one, I had to sit down and talk with them and, make sure they understood that this is how life is. You don't love everything you have to do. So it was a happy ending. So I was glad about that. Scenario two, this year, I have two seniors. They're in my advanced. They're stellar students. One I've had since her sophomore year. She's a senior. And then the other one came to my class her junior year, but she was online all year. So I don't know her as well. I'm pretty close with the other one. They're both leaders in the school, and they do both dance outside school, like full on. And they're both talented dancers. They're both very talented choreographers. The both of them have done multiple pieces for me in the last 2 years. They're great, except for they have very overbearing personalities, and they have tendencies to be mean girls sometimes. I have a huge no drama sign over my dressing room. And so my students know that I don't do drama. I make it clear in the beginning of the year that they don't need to be friends with everybody in the class, but they must be respectful and they must work together. So the no drama policy is good because it can help them learn how to deal with things amongst themselves, but then it also can sometimes have them hide things that are going on that I absolutely need to know about, which is what happened this time. So they've choreographed a couple pieces, and I had one of my girls start a Bollywood dance, and the one of these girls was having a hard time picking it up because it was so fast. And I don't think she's used to not being able to pick up very quickly. And so, and this is all, I was told this. So my two seniors went into the dressing room after that rehearsal and were literally talking like about how much they hated the dance and they couldn't, it was awful. And, and the girl who choreographed it was in there changing with them too. So they were basically talking trash about her while she was standing there, talking about her and her dance. So, after that, a long list of things that they had been doing came out a little bit. And I won't go into all of it, but one of it includes one of them somehow videoing one of our rehearsals in here and putting it on social media and like making fun of another girl. So not to mention I was livid. So from that moment forward, I actually had to create a seating chart for the dance floor. I gave them assigned spaces along the wall. So when they're not on the floor dancing, they have to be in those spots, because the two mean girls, the two seniors would, stand together and like whisper about what was going on the dance floor. And it's just not okay. So, I sat them down and I was like, what the heck? What are you doing? This is not how I work. You know this. And so I had a heart to heart. They apologized and things have calmed down. But that was sort of a whole shift. I've never had to do a seating chart on my dance floor. So, it was just, I don't know, it was just not good. It was not fun. Third scenario, I won't go over time too much, but I have a junior this year. She moved from Vietnam about 2 years ago. She's so intelligent, she's funny, and she's talented, and her style of dance is her own. I would say it might be a mix of hip hop with contemporary and maybe a little K-pop mixed in. So she's working on her third dance. So she did a dance she did 2 dances last year and now this one. So her challenge is her process. She wants to teach a little bit, and then she wants to clean. And so what happens is we get behind on the schedule because she won't move on. Now I know some of it might be a little bit of a language barrier for her communicating with the girls. So I do a lot of translating, not in Vietnamese, but translating body wise. So I have to really sort of stay on her about move. You have to keep moving. You have to keep moving. You have to be done with this section by, you have 2 days to finish the section. But I mean, her pieces are wonderful, and the girls like working with her. It's just that I have to stay on her about moving. I wish we had plenty of time to give everybody the full time for their process, but obviously we don't. So those are 3 scenarios that came up, some personality-wise, some process-wise, that you might come across with student choreographers. All types of situations and scenarios that arise need managed. But overall for me, and I would think for you as well, managing these issues and some of the troubles that can arise is completely worth it to have them create. So, yeah, that's all I have for today. I will be back with the 3rd segment, and we will talk about from the very beginning to taking the student piece and putting it on stage with costume and lights. All right. See you then.